My stepmom showed photos of my fiancé cheating. I couldn't stop laughing at her mistake. I never thought my stepmom would try to ruin the most important day of my life by making up stories about my now husband Tom. But here we are, a week after our wedding, and I still can't believe what happened. Looking back, I should have seen it coming from all the drama she created over the years, but I guess I was too focused on the good things in my life to notice how bad things would get. When I was young, my parents split up but stayed friendly for my sake. They made sure I got enough time with both of them, which I'm grateful for. These days, my mom is with a nice guy called Marcus, and my dad married Diana about 10 years ago. I was excited when Dad remarried because Diana had a daughter Sarah who was just a year older than me. I thought we'd become good friends, but that didn't work out as planned. Sarah was nice when my dad was around, but she'd turn mean the moment he left. She'd make fun of how I looked or what I wore. I wasn't one to stay quiet, so I'd talk back. Sometimes our fights would get physical, and Diana would rush in when Sarah started crying. Sarah would pretend I hurt her first, and Diana always believed her. She'd wait for my dad to come home and tell him I was bullying Sarah. Thankfully, my dad never took sides and just wished we'd get along. The fights with Sarah got worse as we got older. She'd hide my things and then pretend she didn't know where they were. Once she even took my favorite necklace, the one my grandmother gave me before she passed away, and when I found it in her room, she told everyone I was going through her stuff to steal from her. Diana grounded me for 2 weeks, and even though my dad didn't think I did it, he said he couldn't prove anything. My mom noticed how Diana and Sarah treated me when Dad wasn't around. She started picking me up early from Dad's house sometimes, saying we had plans, just to get me out of there. When things got really bad, she told Dad about it, and after that, Dad started taking me out on weekends, just the two of us. I loved those times together. We could talk about anything, and I had his full attention. We'd go to movies, have lunch at my favorite places, or just drive around talking about life. Diana didn't like this at all and wanted Sarah to come along, but Dad said no. He told her these outings were special father-daughter time, and that's how they stayed. I met Tom at my friend Rachel's birthday party 6 years ago. Rachel had invited a bunch of people from her office, and Tom was one of her co-workers. We clicked right away. He made me laugh all night, and we ended up talking until the party was over. He asked for my number, and we went on our first date the next weekend. From then on, we were pretty much inseparable. Tom is great, kind, funny, and really supportive. He gets along with everyone, which made it even stranger when Diana started acting weird around him. The first few times he came over for family dinner, she was polite enough, but you could tell something was off. Then one night, about 2 years into our relationship, she showed her true colors. We were all having dinner at Dad's house, me, Tom, Dad, Diana, Sarah, my mom, and Marcus. Diana looked at us across the table and said Tom was too good-looking for me. Everyone stopped eating. My mom got angry and asked what she meant, and Diana tried to play it off as a joke. Tom stood up for me right there, saying how lucky he felt to be with me and that Diana shouldn't talk about us that way. I appreciated that, but Diana's words still hurt. I know Tom and I look different. He's tall and keeps fit, while I'm shorter and not exactly skinny. But Tom never made me feel bad about how I look. We're happy together, and that's what matters. Still, Diana kept making little comments about my appearance whenever we were alone, always pretending to be concerned about me. She'd say things like, "Are you sure you want to wear that?" Or, "Maybe you should try this diet I read about." Each comment felt like a tiny pinprick, but they added up over time. Sarah wasn't any better. If anything, she was worse because she couldn't hide her crush on Tom. She'd get too close to him at family gatherings, touching his arm while talking or trying to sit next to him at every meal. It made Tom uncomfortable, and he told her many times to stop, but she wouldn't listen. She'd just laugh it off like he was joking. Things came to a head at Thanksgiving last year. Someone suggested we play truth or dare after dinner. I know, kind of childish for adults, but we'd all had some wine and thought it would be fun. Someone dared Sarah to sit on the person she liked most. Instead of choosing her mom like everyone expected, she walked straight to Tom. He got up and said no right away. Sarah turned red from embarrassment while everyone watched. I couldn't help but laugh. It was clear Tom would never be interested in her, but she just couldn't accept it. After that, family gatherings got even more awkward. Sarah would ignore me completely, but still try to get Tom's attention. Diana would make more comments about our relationship, always when others couldn't hear. She'd say things like relationships based on physical attraction never last, or Tom seems like the type who might get bored easily. I tried to ignore her, but sometimes the comments would get to me. Tom always noticed when I was upset and would remind me that he loved me for who I was. As our wedding day got closer, I was really excited but worried about inviting Diana and Sarah. My dad insisted they should come and promised he'd make them leave if they caused trouble. He said it would mean a lot to him if we could all be there as a family. I agreed, hoping everything would be okay. Looking back, I wish I'd listened to my gut feeling instead. The morning of our wedding started perfectly. My best friends Emma and Rachel were helping me get ready. My mom was there making sure everything ran smoothly, and the weather was beautiful. I felt like nothing could go wrong. Then, while I was getting my hair done, Diana burst into my dressing room. She said she needed to talk to me alone about something important. My mom told her to leave me alone, but Diana wouldn't back down. She kept saying she had to tell me something before I made a huge mistake. I told everyone to give us a minute, even though my mom looked worried. I wanted to handle this quickly and get back to getting ready. I gave Diana 2 minutes to say what she needed to say. She pulled out some pictures and put them on the table, claiming they would change what I thought about Tom. Looking at the pictures Diana put on the table, I had to stop myself from laughing. They showed Tom sitting at a restaurant with Jenny, my cousin from Seattle. Diana kept talking about how she'd seen Tom with this mystery woman last week and took pictures to show me what kind of man I was about to marry. Instead of getting upset, I decided to play along. I asked my mom to bring Tom and my dad to the room. Diana looked happy, thinking I was going to confront Tom about cheating. When Tom walked in, he looked nervous about seeing me in my wedding dress before the ceremony, but I told him it didn't matter right now. I showed Tom the pictures and asked him to explain. He looked confused at first, then started explaining that he'd met my cousin Jenny for dinner to discuss my wedding surprise. Diana's face started to change when she heard this. I turned to her and said, "That woman in the pictures is my cousin Jenny. I introduced her to Tom at my birthday party last year." My dad had been quiet this whole time, but now he asked Diana if she was the one who brought these pictures. When I told him how she came into my dressing room trying to convince me Tom was cheating, he got really angry. He asked Diana why she would do something like this on my wedding day. That's when Diana lost it. She started saying I didn't deserve someone like Tom, and that her daughter Sarah was much better for him. According to her, Sarah had been in love with Tom for years. She admitted she'd been trying to break us up all this time because she thought Sarah and Tom would make a better couple. We all stood there shocked. My mom looked like she wanted to throw Diana out the window. But before anyone could say anything, Sarah came bursting into the room. She'd heard something was wrong and wanted to know what was happening. When my dad told her what her mom had done, instead of being embarrassed, Sarah started yelling at me. She blamed me for everything, saying I knew she liked Tom first. She said Tom was only with me because of my job and money. That made me laugh because I knew Tom didn't care about any of that stuff. Tom finally spoke up. He told Sarah straight out that he was never interested in her and never would be. He said he'd tried to be nice about it before, but she kept ignoring his feelings. He reminded her about all the times he'd asked her to stop flirting with him and how uncomfortable she'd made him feel. My dad looked so disappointed. He told Diana and Sarah to leave the wedding. Sarah tried to argue, but Dad wouldn't listen. He said they'd ruined enough of my special day. As they were leaving, Diana tried to make it seem like we were overreacting, but nobody bought it. After they left, Tom and I looked at each other and started laughing about those pictures. We couldn't believe Diana thought she could break us up with photos of Tom and my own cousin. The whole thing was ridiculous. The rest of the wedding was perfect. Walking down the aisle with my dad, saying our vows, our first dance. Everything felt even more special because we'd already faced down our first big challenge together. Our friends and family had a great time, and nobody even mentioned the drama from earlier. We went on our honeymoon to Hawaii and had an amazing time. But when we got back, things got complicated again. My dad told me that Diana was making his life difficult. She kept saying I owed her an apology for embarrassing her at the wedding. She somehow thought she deserved an apology from me, even though she tried to ruin my wedding. Sarah wasn't any better. She kept sending me messages saying I'd never make Tom happy and that I'd ruined her life by marrying him. She even said she might take legal action against me for emotional distress. When my dad told me this, I couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous it was. My dad looked tired when he talked about all this. I could see that living with Diana's drama was wearing him down. He tried to keep things civil at home, but Diana wouldn't let the wedding incident go. She kept bringing it up and blaming everyone else for what happened. Emma, my best friend, told me that Diana had been talking badly about me to other family members. She'd been telling everyone that I'd always been jealous of Sarah and that I'd turned my dad against her on purpose. Some relatives who weren't at the wedding and didn't know the whole story started calling me to ask what really happened. I decided I needed to talk to Diana and Sarah face to face. Tom wanted to come with me, but I thought it would be better if I went alone. I invited them to meet me at a coffee shop near my work. I figured a public place would keep everyone calmer, and I could leave if things got too heated. When we met, I tried to talk calmly about what happened at the wedding. I explained how their actions had hurt me and how their behavior, since then, was affecting my dad. But Diana wouldn't listen. She kept saying she did nothing wrong and was just looking out for her daughter. Sarah sat there rolling her eyes at everything I said. When she finally spoke, she called me insecure and said I was just jealous of her. That's when I lost my patience. I reminded her that I had a good life, a great job I'd worked hard for, a loving husband, and a family who supported me. I told her that trying to steal someone else's partner wasn't something to be proud of. Diana jumped in, saying I was being cruel to Sarah. She started listing all my faults. How I wasn't pretty enough for Tom, how I didn't know how to be a proper wife, how I'd tricked Tom into marrying me. I sat there thinking about how this woman had been in my life for 10 years, and all this time she'd thought these awful things about me. The meeting ended badly. Sarah stormed out after I told her to stop messaging me, and Diana followed her, but not before telling me I'd regret pushing them away. I went home feeling drained, but also relieved. At least I'd tried to fix things, even if it hadn't worked. After that meeting, I blocked both Diana and Sarah's numbers. I needed peace in my life, and clearly trying to reason with them wasn't working. But they found other ways to cause trouble. Diana started calling Tom instead. Tom showed me the long message she sent him about how Sarah was heartbroken and how I had ruined their family by turning my dad against them. We read it together and couldn't believe how she was twisting everything around. Tom blocked her number too. Things at my dad's house got worse after our meeting. Diana wouldn't stop bringing up the wedding and saying how unfair everyone had been to her and Sarah. She kept telling Dad that he chose me over his real family, meaning her and Sarah. Dad tried to explain that he wasn't choosing sides. He just wanted her to admit she'd done something wrong and apologize. But Diana wouldn't back down. She kept making Dad's life miserable, bringing up the wedding every chance she got. After 2 weeks of constant fighting, Dad had enough. He packed his bags and moved out. He's staying at his friend's beach house while he figures things out. When Dad told me he was thinking about divorce, I felt guilty at first. But he said this wasn't just about the wedding. Diana's behavior had shown him who she really was, and he couldn't live with someone who treated his daughter this way. The news about Dad and Diana's separation spread quickly through the family. My cousin Rachel had overheard everything that happened at the wedding, and she'd told some other relatives. Soon everyone knew how Diana and Sarah had tried to ruin my wedding. Most of our family took my side. They were shocked that Diana would do something like that to her stepdaughter on her wedding day. Even Sarah's Aunt Linda, who usually defended her no matter what, said she'd gone too far this time. Diana didn't like being the bad guy in everyone's eyes. She tried reaching out to different family members to tell her side of the story, but nobody believed her anymore. They'd all seen how she and Sarah had acted over the years, and now everything made sense. Tom and I tried to support Dad through all of this. We had him over for dinner often, and I could see him getting happier each time I saw him. He started looking more like his old self, the way he was before all the drama with Diana started. Last month, I went on a beach vacation with my mom. She'd been really worried about me since the wedding, and she thought we both needed a break. We spent a week just relaxing, walking on the beach, and talking about everything that had happened. Mom told me stories about her own wedding and how nervous she'd been. She said every marriage faces challenges, but what matters is how you handle them together. She was proud of how Tom and I had dealt with Diana's drama, staying strong as a couple instead of letting it tear us apart. While we were away, Sarah tried one last time to cause trouble. She sent a message to Tom's workplace email, telling his boss that Tom had been harassing her. But Tom had saved all her messages from over the years, showing how she was the one who wouldn't leave him alone. His boss knew us both well and didn't take Sarah's claim seriously. When I heard about what Sarah had done, I wasn't even angry anymore. I just felt sorry for her. She'd spent so many years focused on trying to steal my husband that she'd forgotten to live her own life. Diana had encouraged her behavior instead of helping her move on, and now they were both alone. Dad started divorce proceedings last week. Diana didn't take it well. She kept calling and messaging him, switching between apologizing and blaming him for everything. Dad blocked her number too. Now she has no way to reach any of us. Looking back at everything that's happened since the wedding, I realize how lucky I am. Yes, my stepmom and stepsister tried to ruin my wedding, but they failed. Instead of breaking us apart, their plan brought Tom and me closer together. It showed me how much my dad loves me, and how many people in my life support us. Tom has been amazing through all of this. He never once complained about the drama Diana and Sarah caused. He just stood by my side, supporting me and making me laugh when things got tough. When I apologized for my crazy family, he reminded me that he knew what he was getting into when he married me, crazy family and all. These days, life is peaceful. Dad seems happier than he's been in years. He started playing golf again, something he'd given up because Diana always complained about how much time it took. Mom and Marcus have been great, including Dad in family dinners, and making sure he doesn't get lonely. Tom and I are settling into married life nicely. Sometimes we joke about how Diana thought showing me pictures of Tom with my own cousin would break us up. It seems ridiculous now, but I guess when you're desperate, you'll try anything. I haven't heard from Diana or Sarah in weeks now, and honestly, it's better this way. I hope they get the help they need and learn to be happy with their own lives instead of trying to ruin other people's. But if they don't, that's not my problem anymore. My friend Emma said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. She's right. Diana and Sarah showed everyone who they really were, and now they have to live with the consequences. Meanwhile, Tom and I are looking forward to our future together, grateful for the love and support of our real family. The people who stand by us no matter what.